All right. Sorry, I'm trying to get this set up so that there's good audio. All right. I think that'll be good. Okay. I want to be right. Sorry, I'm trying to get this set up so that there's good audio. All right. I think. All right. Let me pause that. Usually that pauses. I don't know why that didn't pause that time. Okay. I'm also going to share this into the group. So let me do that really quickly. All right. Copy. I didn't have this decided what I was going to do until today because I was talking with my husband at lunch about some things, or breakfast, sorry. So I went home and then wrote the outline, which I also forgot to run off. It's been a busy day. All right, so that is shared. Let me get off this. Okay, so I have a few things running in the background. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Joyce. I might actually try to share my screen at one point just to show you. You guys can read along as I am reading the inserts of the actual hormonal birth control when we get to that part. Okay, so I have to pull up my outline as well. I am going to do it today. I am going to attempt to do a good job of talking about these three things and how they tie into each other: your cycles, your fertility, and hormonal birth control. They're all things that we've talked about they're things that are not talked about very often in the Baptist world. So, but to me, it's a whole lot of common sense and just knowing the facts of life. In this show today, we're going to go over the different phases in your cycle and how to adequately prepare for them. Hormones do play an important part of your life. And as Christian women, we need to learn how to correctly deal with the hormones that come up. Okay, so I do have a couple things I want to read when we delve into the whole birth control issue. I also had one of my Facebook friends, after seeing that I was talking about this today, sent me kind of her own personal testimony when it came to hormonal birth control use, and I wanted to read that. I will say that this subject of hormonal birth control is a very controversial one. However, it doesn't have to be, because I think a lot of the reasons that it is controversial is many women have not studied it in depth on their own. I think that they are just trusting the people in their life, and they're just going along with the status quo of just going on the birth control pill after you get married, or they're going along with advice from even preachers. I have heard when they're counseling people that are getting ready to get married have suggested going on birth control so that you can get to know each other in the first year or two. And they do so, I believe, out of ignorance. I don't think most preachers have researched, looked up the inserts for birth control, and actually researched what goes into birth control and the mechanisms and the side effects. So I wanted to go over that. I also wanted to go over your cycles and your fertility, because I do believe it all works together. And I do believe that God created a woman's body in a very unique and beautiful way so that everything working together, it takes so much to create a baby, right? Obviously, God opens and closes the womb, but there is so much that goes into it. There's 4 different weeks of your cycle where different things are going on and things are happening. And, all of these things work together to create this new life. And I believe when we throw hormonal birth control into the mix, we are messing up the beautiful design that God created us. And I also believe that God did not create us in such a beautiful and unique way so that we don't have a clue what's going on. And this art of knowing your cycle and your fertility is one that is not being passed on. I knew nothing about it when I got married, absolutely nothing. I knew nothing about it when I was a teenager. And I think even knowing about it as a teenager could have prepared me for the times of the month when I was in a funk, or I was depressed, I was, moody. I just didn't know anything about it. I didn't know all the different weeks and the different phases of my fertility month. So I am trying to do differently when it comes to my daughters. And I also do have a platform where a lot of women watch, and I want to get out the dangers of hormonal birth control. And I also want to get out the awareness for knowing how your body works and Also different things when it comes to your fertility. If you're trying to conceive, there's things you can do. If you're trying to have a break because you are completely overwhelmed, there are things that you can do that are in no way wrong ethically. So we're going to delve into this. I get a lot of hate from both sides, those that push the birth control pill, but I'm sick of Baptists who say that they are pro-life pushing a pill that can abort a fertilized egg. I think that's wrong morally. And I want to get my voice out there and let women know that there is the potential for that side effect, because one of the mechanisms that we're going to see in the inserts is to thin out your uterus lining, which would abort a fertilized egg. It causes your uterine lining to be hostile to implantation. So that is one of the third mechanisms of the birth control pill. So I want to get that out there. I'm also receive a lot of backlash from those who don't believe that you should ever take charge of your fertility and maybe have a break. And I think that's wrong too. I think as Christians, we need to have balance. I don't think God created us in such a way that we're clueless. And I think there's a reason he created us in such a way. Also in the Bible, we see many times when women knew they were fertile and they were trying to get pregnant, that they were with their husbands. And I think this is, natural family planning or just charting your cycles is something that women of old did. It's a very reliable method. And I do believe that I've gotten many emails even, and the question has been asked in the Gently Led Sisters group, what do I do if I'm trying to trust God with my family size, but my husband sees how I'm struggling. He knows I'm unhealthy. He knows I can barely get out of bed most days. I have 5 children, 5 and under, and he believes it's time to take a break and allow my body to heal. And I have addressed that question in the Gently Led Sisters group. And my answer is why you say that you trust your husband. You say that you are submitting to your husband, but you're not wanting to submit to him in this area. Ultimately, you and your husband will answer to God for the children that you have, the methods you use. No one else will but you. It's a very highly personal decision, but there are a lot of things that go into it. So I am just here to equip you with the information, and you and your husband have to pray about it, seek God's face, whether it comes to fully trusting him and never trying to prevent, or whether it is trusting your husband's role as your overseer and his role as your protector, and listening to him when he thinks that it's time for a break. So I don't see anything wrong or with following his leading. So I'm going to try to read the chat as I'm going through, but sometimes I do miss, especially when I'm getting into it. So I apologize if I do. Let's see. Okay. Yes, exactly, Sybil. She said, I felt insane on birth control. And that is one of the side effects is depression, mood swings, different things like that. So you really feel like a new person once you get off of it. So, hey, Julia. Hey, Crystal, and anyone else that I'm missing, Amanda, Sybil. So yes, if you do have questions as we go, definitely go ahead and put them in the chat and we will address those. But let's get into our hormones, just dealing with our hormones as women. Obviously, we have these things going on, our correct response to hormones. So realize that they will change from week to week, and we're going to go over each week and what goes on in each week. So this might also be a good subject. And this is a disclaimer. If you're a man, I guess you could listen as far as just figuring out your wife. Oh, that's why she acts like this on week 1. That's why she acts like this on week 2. That's why she acts like this on week 3. But this is a good topic for those girls who have maybe just started their cycle and they're wondering, what is wrong with me? What is going on with me? All this stuff is going crazy in my body. I don't know how to act this week. I don't know how to act this week. And this might be a good topic. Even you as a mom, if you listen and then you do your own research, you can sit down and show your daughters, this is what's happening this week. This is what's happening this week. And this is why you feel this way. And this is why you feel good this week, but you feel crazy this week. So this is a good topic for girls that are just starting their cycle as well. So I do think that our daughters need to be taught this and just everything that goes into your cycle and everything. So, definitely prepare. Realize when you are going to be a little more anxious, a little more down, a little more depressed, and prepare for those scenarios. Know when it's coming. And obviously, this is for women who maybe are not lactating or pregnant. When you're pregnant, that's a whole different topic. And my emotions tend to be fine for the most part during pregnancy. They're not too crazy up and down. It's after I have the baby. The postpartum period is the hardest time for me personally. So postpartum is pretty tough. Now, I will say that even postpartum, the lamb method does not work for me. And so, especially the older I've gotten, it did work for a couple of them for up to about a year when I weaned them. But the older I get and the less milk my body produces, I've had that issue with my last 2 pregnancies, then the sooner I start my cycle and I do all the things. So, just know with your hormones, know how to respond to them. And we're going to talk about correct responses and incorrect responses. And then just be upfront and honest. Don't get offended when your husband's like, are we headed up to that time of month? It happens. Our hormones fluctuate. Every week is different. And there's no shame in just being upfront and up. Yes, I'm struggling. Yes, I'm having a hard time with anger today. Yes, I'm having a hard time with anxiety today. Yes, I'm having a hard time with sadness. But then know how to get control of them. Don't let your emotions control you. You control your emotions. So our incorrect response to them would be letting them control us instead of us controlling our response to them. Just knowing I have to be prepared for this. This is about to happen, and taking steps to ensure that they don't control you in all the aspects of your life, that you know what's going on, you have a plan, and you put that plan into action. So, another incorrect response would be using them as a crutch or an excuse for our bad behavior. Well, it's not my fault. You punch a hole in the wall. It's not my fault. It's my hormones. You kick the dog. It's not my fault. It's the hormones. You have a freak out at the kids. It's not my fault. It's the hormones. Don't allow them to be a crutch or an excuse. And then letting ourselves become the victim to our emotions. That's right along the same area. And then expecting our family to just deal with us because it's not our fault. I'd like to see how you would do with your daughters, your hormonal daughters, as they grow up. You have to teach them too that just because they are going through a more hormonal time, that they still have to dwell in unity with their family members. And when you've got a lot of girls, this might be a little tough. So, I have 6 girls. So by the time everyone is going through that, I know a couple of them will be married and moved out of the house, but there still is several going through it at the same time. So you need to have your girls be prepared. They can't just be tyrants every time it's that time of the month. They have to learn to be their bodies to be in subjection to them, not them being in subjection to their bodies and the hormones. So I'm going to read an article that I found kind of explaining all of the different hormones or the different weeks and what is going on with those. So yes, exactly, Julia. She said, totally different postpartum. I don't make any major decisions postpartum just because I know I'm not the same as when I'm not. And that's a good decision. Knowing that I'm not thinking very logically right now, so I probably shouldn't make this decision right now. That's thinking logically before it happens and holding yourself accountable to that. But there is an article that I found, and I thought it was really good for just kind of explaining what was going on week to week. And it says women have approximately 450 menstrual cycles in their lifetime. Unfortunately, women often view their cycles as a burden, and sometimes they're even perceived culturally to be some kind of a curse. Now, if you are biblical, you will know that a lot goes into childbearing, and I believe all of this plays into that. So we can blame Eve. It kind of is kind of a curse. But what if I told you that your monthly cycle has 4 unique phases and that each one brings about different physical and emotional strengths in you? You'd probably want to learn how to work with your cycle instead of against it. And I wholeheartedly agree. I do think being aware is very key to understanding how your body is working, knowing that there are different things going on and that you aren't crazy. You just need to learn to deal with what's going on in your body at that time. Incorporating simple tips and practices below have revolutionized my relationship with my cycle, and I believe they will do the same for you. So let's talk about week 1. So week 1 is the menstrual phase. So the first day of your bleeding is considered day 1 of your cycle. So just always think of it that way. Day 1 is when your cycle starts. On this day, the hormone progesterone plunges, which causes the uterine lining to shed, aka your period. So if a baby has not been implanted into your uterus, then your uterine lining will shed. So that progesterone plunging, that is another reason as we get older, our progesterone lowers. And that is why progesterone at the beginning of a pregnancy is good if you are low in that hormone. So I have been on progesterone my last 2 pregnancies just because I had early spotting. So I believe my progesterone was a lot lower than when I was younger, and it was causing my body to kind of react and then start the cycle. But, my body also was fighting me because it knew it was pregnant, and knew there was a baby there. So as soon as I introduced that progesterone on into my body, it stopped the spotting. So often a period lasts between 3 and 7 days. So the symptoms during this week, your energy is the lowest in your cycle. So a lot of times with me, I will deal with headaches. I will deal with cramping. Since I have started taking Vitex, those are getting less and less. And I will talk about Vitex in a little bit, or chasteberry. You may want to rest more often than you usually do, or even take a day off. I know that a whole day off might not be possible, but introducing some quietness and deliberate rest time can be tremendously helpful. If you're pressed for time, your rest time could even look like a short walk or 3 minutes of deep breathing. I've often heard during this first week of your cycle, you need to take it a little bit easier when it comes to physical activity. So you want to also adjust your exercise schedule to these weeks. So say the week that I am, the first week of my cycle, I like to do more things like lower impact exercise. So that would be walking, even walking outside if it's beautiful out, and obviously not in January in Illinois, but walking on the treadmill, lots of nice baths, candlelit baths, even some naps sometimes during this period. And this is going to be more of a kind of reflective week. You want to try to take it a little bit slower. I say this, and, I've had a lot of weeks where it's just not possible. So I will try in the evening after everything's done to really just rest, take some minutes to take a bath or read a book, drink a cup of hot tea. It's kind of a reflective time. So clear your candle of any big social and dating events and make a date with yourself. So this is going to be more of a one-on-one time with yourself. This is not when you're at your peak with friendliness, outgoingness, being an extrovert. Even as an extrovert, I need downtime. And during this week, I'm not at my most friendly. And you need to learn to acknowledge that and know that this is going to go on. And, you need to be a little bit more careful about social interactions because you might say something you regret, or people might irritate you more. So you need to be very cautious of that and mindful that you need to be careful of what comes out of your mouth more during this time than other weeks. So let me look back at my outline. I'm going between different things here. So, try to make it a recovery week at home. Take it easy on yourself. Have a little more grace for yourself. Get adequate sleep. And that could be in the form of 6 to 8 hours a night, depending on what you need. I'm a 7 to 8 hour girl. I don't barely ever get that. I almost normally get about 6 hours of sleep a night, which is not enough for me. But take a nap if you need to. I don't ever get a nap either. I'm like preaching these things that I don't even do. But, find out what works for you. Vitex is very good to take. Vitex is good for pretty much all of these issues that we are talking about. The herb Vitex is amazing. It's also called chasteberry. It is in the pill that I recommend called Conception. Conception is great if you are having a hard time conceiving. I have had countless number of women take this wonderful supplement off of Amazon, and they have gone on to have healthy, happy babies. So it has lots of good things in it, lots of vitamins. The herb, I have personally just been taking the herb Vitex by itself. I found an organic brand off of Amazon for $18 a bottle. It's 1 pill a day. And I've noticed a huge difference. I was really struggling. I'm 42 now. So I'm going into the perimenopause phase. And I was really struggling from the time I ovulated till the time I started my cycle. I was having horrendous heat flashes, horrendous mood swings, horrendous headaches. And I've been taking Vitex 1 pill a day for about 2 months now. And I'm noticing a huge decrease in all of those symptoms. So look into that. I think herbs are very greatly overlooked, and herbs are very safe and very natural. Whereas when we get into the talk about the hormonal birth control, you'll see that they are using synthetic things, often very hurtful pharmaceutical drugs that can wreak havoc on your body. So herbs are completely different from that. So that is your week 1. That's what it's going to look like. Definitely, there's books out there too that can help you if you want to read more on this subject. There's books about all the different weeks and what's a good way to structure your life based off what's going on in each week of your cycle. So week 2, this would be my favorite week. So you have the really down week, your hormones, your progesterone drops, you're kind of very reflective, and it's a quiet week, and you need to just be aware of your emotions and your anger, your sadness. But then you have week 2. So week 2 is called the follicular phase. And this phase follows just after menstruation. It's called the I don't know if I'm saying that right. Follicular phase, because your pituitary gland releases a hormone called follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the follicles in your ovaries to mature. So FYI, these follicles contain your eggs. So your symptoms this week, estrogen and testosterone start to rise during this phase. This will bring a boost of energy and can often improve your mood too. And this is very true for me. You may feel even more assertive and willing to take risks. Testosterone stimulates your libido, while estrogen makes you feel more extroverted and suppresses your appetite. This is a great week to start a more vigorous exercise routine because you have the most potential to lose weight during this week. Your appetite is down, whereas during week 1, you want the chocolate, you want the carbs, you want the bad food. Your body's craving that because your progesterone's dropping and your hormones are going crazy and you're getting ready to start your cycle. Well, on week 2, your appetite is lower. And so this would be a better time to do maybe aerobics, weightlifting, different things like that. A more assertive exercise routine where like you would do Pilates or something gentle for you week 1. So this is a time when you may feel a wide variety of feelings related to self-sufficiency. Yay! So she's saying action steps when you're feeling this way is brainstorming and problem solving will be major strengths during this phase. So initiate new projects and make big decisions. Make use of those social superpowers by speaking up in meetings, joining a new social group, and scheduling time with friends. Strenuous exercise will feel increasingly good during this time too, so get out and enjoy physical activities that you love. Maybe hiking up a mountain or riding a spin bike and spin class, the very, very physical activities that you kind of took a break from during your week 1. So this is my favorite week because I feel the best during this week. I have bursts of energy. I'm feeling very on top of things. I'm feeling very friendly and extroverted, and I want to have coffee dates, and I want to talk to my friends, and I want to go shopping and all those good things. So this is also my most productive when I come to cleaning, organizing. Maybe there's an area of my house that needs to be deep cleaned. I jump right in. I get it done. It makes me feel good. I feel the best physically. And so what I would do for this week 2, is plan for your cleaning or organizing weeks during this week. And just enjoy it. Week 2 and week 3 are great for dates with your husband. You're feeling sassy. You're feeling on top of things. You're feeling confident. So flirt a little bit. I think most husbands enjoy week 2 and week 3 the best. This is also when your libido is starting to go up because you are getting ready to release an egg, which God put in his natural design. he made women more attracted to men during this phase of their cycle. So most husbands enjoy this phase of the cycle. So definitely just enjoy it. And there's not really much during these weeks. Most women are kind of on a high or adrenaline rush during these weeks. There's not really much that you have to watch out for because you're in a good mood. Everything's great. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. Life is good. You have a wonderful life. It's amazing. Everything's great. So just remember that when you start getting into week 3 or week 4, I'm sorry. So in week 3, let's read about week 3. So week 3 comes along, and this is called the ovulatory phase. So ovulation is the culmination of all the hard work your body's been doing over the last couple of weeks. An egg gets released from its follicle in your ovary and will survive for 12 to 24 hours. So that's another thing that you have to remember is that contrary to popular opinion, you can really only get pregnant in about a 3-day window out of your whole cycle. So when it comes to natural family planning, I want to put this out there. When it comes to natural family planning, it's not like you have to be abstinent for like 2 or 3 weeks out of the month. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. And you don't even need to be completely abstinent during the times when you are very fertile, because there are, barrier methods or other things that you can do that you can figure out. But you can only, the egg, I think I've read before, it says 12 to 24. I beg to differ. In my research, I found that most eggs can live up to 48 hours. So, and there is a window around that where the male part, I want to be careful using my words in this. I don't want to get too graphic. The part that comes from the man can survive for a few days on either side of that window. So I would say about 2 days where your egg is released and it, you can get, it can be fertilized, but then there's a few days before and a few days after where all they can last. So it's about a 5 to 6 window gap that you can get pregnant out of a month. So the symptoms during this phase is estrogen and testosterone rise to peak levels, boosting the effects of the follicular phase. You may feel that you look better and feel more confident. So it will be easier to verbalize your thoughts and feelings. And then your libido is also at its highest peak. One thing that the birth control pill does that we will read about is it lowers a woman's libido. It takes away, one of the main methods is to stop. One of the main mechanisms is to stop ovulation. So when it stops ovulation, it's shutting down all those feel-good hormones and everything that's going on during this phase. It's completely shutting them down. So it's turning off a woman's drive. It's turning off her libido. It's turning off everything. And a lot of women experience absolutely zero physical attraction for their husband while they're on the pill. They don't want anything to do with that part of their life. And as a married person, that's a very important part of your life. So I believe that all these things, when you let things just be natural and the way God intended, it all works together to provide a much healthier and happier relationship with your husband, because all those components are there. Your physical attraction for him is there, wanting to be with him is there. And I think that's it's so much better for the marriage relationship when you keep all of those artificial hormones off the table and just allow your body to work the way that God planned it. He did it for a reason. He did it on purpose. So, this is a great time in week 3 for job interviews, networking events, and public speaking. Schedule a date night with your current beau or your husband and ask someone out. Energy levels are the highest in this phase, so continue to enjoy lots of physical activity. So week 2 and 3, absolute best for hardcore exercising, socializing, events, engagements, speaking opportunities, job interviews. If you're interviewing for a job, new ideas, brainstorming, absolute best for those. But then we get into week 4. So we have all those things going on. Definitely on week 3, focus on your spouse during this time and focus on your relationships, focus on your friendships, this is the time when you're going to feel more like going out for that coffee date or going on that shopping trip. So try to plan accordingly when it comes to that. So then we go into week 4 though. And week 4, your body starts producing progesterone, and it does this just in case you fertilized an egg. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You'll be coming down from the adrenaline rush of week 2 and 3. So you're going to start having heat flashes, headaches. You're going to start feeling blah. It's the week leading up to your period again. So find some herbs to help PMS, and that's where the Vitex comes in. Definitely find some herbs to help that readjust. I've tried some different things. I've tried some progesterone drops. I didn't do well on those. Those just seem to increase all of my symptoms. So once I came off of those and started just with the Vitex, I've been feeling a lot better. There's also something called, if you can remember, Julia, put it in the thing. It's basically the components from broccoli and cauliflower. DIM. It's short for something. I cannot take it. Back when I started taking it, which you can start to see, it's becoming more pronounced. Shortly after I started taking it, it did help my symptoms for my cycle, but it's when I also started noticing my thyroid nodule. So you have to be careful if you have thyroid related issues. It can actually aggravate that. Lots of broccoli, lots of cauliflower. They can actually aggravate or cause nodules to form on your thyroid. So always look into and research things. There are some certain side effects for people that may have this disorder or this disorder. And I didn't really know after I noticed the nodule, it came up in my research about the nodules that can actually aggravate that. So realize you are heading into hormonal territory and adjust accordingly. So realize that, okay, I'm coming up on this week 1 again. I've got to be careful. I got to get my mindset right. I've got to remember that I'm going to be a little more irritated. I'm going to have a short fuse. I might feel a little more angry. I might feel a little more anxious. So just realize it's coming up and get ready for that. Yes. And Julia said, in 3rd week, your hormones are the lowest and your immune system is the weakest. You're most likely to get sick this week. And thank you for saying that, Julia. Julia is one of the ones I want to have on the show in February when we talk about just trauma and healing from trauma and things like that. She is one that's going to be on. Hopefully, I have actually not reached out to you. Joyce has, but I've dropped the ball. It's been a busy month. So, okay. So then week 4, this is called the luteal phase. Okay. So remember, once again, we have the menstrual phase, week 1. Phase 2 is the follicular phase. That's when your body's getting ready to, those follicles are being stimulated and it's getting ready to release an egg. Phase 3 is the ovulatory phase. This is where you release the egg. That's the culmination of the last few weeks. And then phase 4 is the luteal phase. The first 2 to 3 days of this phase will feel a lot like the ovulatory phase. That changes when estrogen and testosterone decline and your body starts producing the progesterone. Remember, you're starting to produce that progesterone in case an egg is implanted. So it says, since progesterone is an anti-anxiety hormone, you will find yourself beginning to wind down. Now is a good time for nesting, chores, and taking care of your to-do lists. It's almost like nesting in a way. When you get ready, you're nesting when you're getting ready to have a baby. It's kind of the same type of hormone. You're kind of wanting to get this stuff wrapped up. The second half of this phase, however, so the second half of this week, heading into week 1 again, the third, like the last 2 or 3 days, is notoriously difficult for many women. You may feel PMS symptoms like cravings for I already said this, carbohydrate heavy comfort foods, bloating, breast tenderness, headaches, anxiety, and moodiness. These symptoms are not all in your head, but they aren't something that you should suffer through either. So what you can do to help when you know this is coming, practice good self-care during the week before your period, and you'll likely notice less PMS. So try spending extra time alone, eating healthy foods, taking a restorative exercising class or Pilates or something calming, receiving stress relieving treatments like a massage or acupuncture, Taking magnesium supplements can also be helpful in reducing headaches and muscle tension. I've had an eye twitch for about 4 months now, and I've recently been trying to up my magnesium intake, and it's helping a lot. It still randomly happens, but it was happening literally every 5 minutes before I started the magnesium. So magnesium is something that us women are very low in a lot of times, and then we'll have a lot of side effects if you're not taking enough magnesium. When you honor your body's innate need for rest and relaxation during this phase, you will enhance your ability to get more out of the active phases of your cycle. So, as you can see, the female body ebbs and flows in a similar way to the natural environment around us. Learning to honor your own internal cycle of nature creates an understanding of how your hormones work in each phase of your cycle. And there also are apps that you can get. And I do have an app that I have. It's Pre-Mom is what it's called, because you can order pre-mom ovulation and pregnancy tests off of Amazon. And then as you take them, you record your results every day, and it will tell you, you're high in this hormone, you're high in this hormone. This is when you're most fertile. You're not fertile right now. I would not only rely on those apps, though. Definitely there are signs with your body of what you're going through. When it comes into that, and you can research all of that. I'm not going to go into a lot of the physical signs. There are physical signs as you're approaching ovulation. There are physical signs that ovulation has occurred. There are physical signs that ovulation is over, but you can research that on your own. Definitely look into that and figure all that out. Whether you're trying to achieve pregnancy or you're trying to abstain from pregnancy for a while just to allow your body to heal or rest. So those are the cycles. I never knew about any of that until probably the last week, the last year or two, as of when I started looking into this, and it makes so much sense. And it helps, I guess, identify why we are the way that we are so many weeks. So I think it's good for us as women to be in tune with that, to know what's going on. Okay, this is week 1. This is why I feel this way. All right, this is week 2 and 3. This is why I feel this way. And then this is week 4, the last half of the week. This is when a lot of women really lash out either at their spouses or their children. This is when a lot of the angry stuff happens. So definitely be aware that this has the potential to happen. And this is why I'm feeling this way about 2 or 3 days, the last half of that. Every month I have to be careful because I'm very down. I'm very, I'm so down. I'm not feeling it. Everyone hates me. No one likes me. I guess I should just go eat some worms. That's how I feel. And I think every woman has been there. And I have to remind myself, Cassandra, this is not you. This is not your life talking. This is the hormones. And then after a few days, I'm fine. So just be aware of what are going on. So women are on a 28 to 35 day cycle, and men are on a 24-hour cycle. Yes. And I have never actually researched the cycle that the men are on, but I can see that would definitely be a thing. And one thing that the apps will do too, it will help give you an average length of what your cycle is. And I actually have a very, very short one. I'm only like 27 days or something. So I think you're blessed if you go to 35 days. Lucky you. But for some of us, we do have very short cycles. So yes. And Julia said, also known as the 2-week wait in the trying to conceive circles. The 2-week wait, that would be like week 3 and 4, I believe, headed up to that. So how does this all relate to childbirth though? So all phases work towards ovulation and releasing the egg. And you can identify key peak days. This works with the natural family planning. If you are doing that, there are other things that it's called as well, but there are some certain misconceptions about that. Some of the misconceptions are you have to be abstinent on your very, very fertile days, and that's just not true. There are different things you can do. There are different barrier things that you can get to that aren't going to be ethically wrong and abort a fertilized egg. So But let's talk about hormonal birth control right now. I wanted to go into the subject because I think it is one that is very important and it is not talked about a lot. And I've received a lot of testimonies from women that have been on it, and it has messed them up. It's messed up their hormones. It's messed up their moods. It's messed up their body physically. Even they've started taking it, and then they've had a whole host of other problems pop up. This is something I've heard that married couples or engaged couples, when engaged couples go to their pastor will tell them, get on the pill now. That way, after you're married, you can have a year or two where you're just getting to know each other. But that's horrible advice because the birth control pill has a tendency to really disrupt a woman's moods. It disrupts the natural cycle that God put in us as women. It disrupts everything. It could disrupt your even your gut. It does stuff to your gut. And I'm going to read off the insert in the birth control. I'm going to show you, actually, we're going to read it together, and I'm going to show you just how devastating it can be. But this is a personal testimony that I got from a Facebook friend, and I'm not going to put the name, but she said, I saw your post on hormonal birth control. My husband and I discussed prevention of pregnancy before we got married. I was so ignorant that when he said he didn't want to use a barrier method, I volunteered for birth control. The havoc it caused within my own body was a non-proverbial nightmare. Mood swings, severe weight gain, which I never recovered from, food sensitivities, and other pregnancy-like symptoms, lower libido, which isn't highlighted in any birth control talks, but it is one of the side effects in the insert. And I lost a pregnancy. My cycles were regular and less painful, yeah, but it wasn't worth it. It definitely caused my first miscarriage. And here's a little known fact. This is my own words. There is what is called breakthrough ovulation, because the main mechanism of hormonal birth control is to prevent ovulation. But the percentage where it works, it does not work 100%. Actually, the percentage is pretty low, more like 50 to 60% of the time. If you look up research and statistics, 50 to 60% of the time it prevents ovulation, but then you've got this other, 40, 45%. So how is it preventing pregnancy then if it's not preventing ovulation? Well, the second method is to make your mucus thicker. And when that fails, the third thing that it does is it thins out your uterine lining so that it's hostile to a fertilized egg. Thus, it cannot implant. And thus your body just thinks it's going into a period, and it just, it expels the baby. But here's the thing. A lot of women get pregnant on the birth control pill because the first and second and the third, that baby was, it was a little sassy thing. So it actually implanted, but they do go on to lose it because the uterine lining is so thin, there's not enough nutrients in that growing embryo for that uterine lining to support it. They end up going on to miscarry that baby. And this happens quite often, actually. They'll find out they're pregnant. I got pregnant on birth control, but then they do end up miscarrying. And I just want to throw this out there too. If this has happened, you did it in ignorance, you did not know. So God will forgive that. Just pour your heart out to God. Confess, I'm sorry, I did this in ignorance. I didn't know that this had the possibility of doing this with a fertilized egg. And, I believe 110% that life begins at conception. And so the time that sperm joins that egg, that is a living soul. That is a baby. And if we as Baptists truly believe that, why are we recommending something that it's one of the main mechanisms is to expel a fertilized egg? That's awful. It goes against our pro-life beliefs. It goes against our belief that life begins at conception. And for me, I just don't want to take the chance. I want to stay as far away from that as I can. I don't even want the possibility that I could abort one of my babies. I don't see anything wrong ethically with natural family planning and taking a break when you need to. Like I said, I believe that your body is designed in a wonderful way that you can tell when you're ovulating. But I do believe that if you ovulate early or you ovulate late, and you get pregnant with a surprise baby, you are to love that baby and bring that baby up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. You are not to do anything to try to kill that baby. You are not going to try to take a morning after pill or try to do anything hormonal to get rid of that baby. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But there have been women that have been shocked and horrified when they have found out that this is one of the mechanisms, and they feel horrible and they feel guilty. And I understand why. We're mothers, and it's a desire in us to nurture our babies and have our babies. And the thought of doing anything to hinder that or doing anything to kill a fertilized egg is horrific to us. So just pour your heart out to the Lord, confess, and then just don't do it again. Stay away from that and spread awareness. I think that's important too. So back to the testimony of this friend. She said, it definitely caused my first miscarriage. After my first daughter was born, he wanted me back on birth control. It destroyed my milk supply. It does. It has a potential to do that. Made me horribly sick, and again, caused weight gain that I could not get off. It sapped my energy. Is very likely why I have Hashimoto's and caused severe depression. And it does too. It causes depression as well. He finally let me stop taking it when even a low dose meant no, intimacy without jumping through hoops and extreme mood swings. So she said that stuff will mess you up. And I wholeheartedly agree. So let's go to the actual birth control PDF. Okay. And I am going to share my screen of this, just this. Okay. So here it is. Do this here. So I wanted to share my screen. So this is the oral conception. I looked up one of the most popular birth controls that there are, and it was orthotricycline tablets. So these are the hormones that are in it. They have all this, but I read through this and it had exactly in it what I thought it did, because I've read through all the inserts. I've read through all the inserts of vaccinations. I've read through all the inserts of birth control. I read through all the inserts of any antibiotic that I'm going to take. But this is what I wanted to highlight right here. Okay, it says combination. Is there like things that I can do up here? What is this? Ooh, I can. Oh, let's do a spotlight. Let's do this. Ooh, look at that. Okay. So this says combination oral contraceptives act by suppression of this big word, gonadotropins, although the primary mechanism, let's do this. The primary mechanism of this action is inhibition of ovulation. Other alterations include, here we go, changes in the cervical mucus, which increase the difficulty of sperm entry into the uterus, and the endometrium. And I wanted you to see this, which reduce the likelihood of implantation. So implantation, wait a minute, why would I have implantation? Because there's breakthrough ovulation. Definitely breakthrough ovulation. So I'm going through this pretty quickly. They're indicated for the prevention of pregnancy in women who elect to use oral contraceptives as a method of contraception. They're highly effective. They show the typical use of what it is to typical use by chance. There's the statistics for that, but I wanted to go through, there are so many contradictions when it comes to this thing. So here's a whole list of side effects that you can have, but I wanted to go down here because I read through all of this already. And this is just going over all of the things that you can, get from this, but they have a whole list down here. So this is what you need to be. Look at all these. These are adverse reactions. An increased risk of the following serious adverse reactions has been associated with the use of oral contraceptives. Thrombolytis. I'm not going to say all these big fancy words correctly. And venous thrombosis with or without embolism. Arterial pulmonary embolism, myocardial infarction, cerebral hemorrhage, cerebral thrombosis, hypertension, gallbladder disease, hepatic endonemosis. Oh my goodness, these are some words. Or benign liver tumors. So yes, if you have liver, any type of liver thing, this can very much hurt your liver. The following adverse reactions have been reported in patients receiving oral contraceptives and are believed to be drug-related. Nausea, vomiting, gastrointestinal symptoms, breakthrough bleeding, spotting, change in menstrual flow, basically the loss of a period, temporary infertility after discontinuation of treatment. I want to say I've received many emails from women who have been on birth control 1, 2, 3 years, and when they go off, they cannot get pregnant. It has, usually it takes them about 2 or 3 years to get pregnant. And then as long as they stay off of the birth control pills, they're able to continue having children. But yes, this is a big thing. Edema, melasma, which may persist. I don't know what that is. Breast changes, change in weight. This is a big one. Increase or decrease, most increase. I've heard many stories of weight gain. Change in cervical erosion and secretion, diminution in lactation, that it affects your milk supply. When given immediately postpartum, it will make your supply tank. Cholestic jaundice, don't know what that is. Migraine, rash, mental depression. These are, guys, these are all, this is an insert for orthotricycline. These are all listed. These are all things. And yet we have pastors recommending this. This is horrible. If you take this as a newlywed, you're going to spend the first year or so just with your husband going, who is this woman? Who is this woman that I that I thought I married? Who is she? Where is the one that I fell in love with? Because this is all, I can't believe doctors are still even prescribing this. Migraine, rash, mental depression, reduced tolerance to carbohydrates, vaginal whatever. Change in corneal curvature, intolerance to contact lenses. The following adverse reactions have been reported in users of oral contraceptives, and the association has been neither confirmed nor refuted. So they're just throwing this out there. Yeah, lots of women on the birth control pills they've stated that this has happened, but we're not going to confirm or deny it. Interesting. Premenstrual syndrome, cataracts, changes in appetite, cystis. I think this is kidney, headache, nervousness, dizziness. Don't know what this is. Loss of scalp hair. So let's just take away the beauty of a woman too. Let's make her go bald while we're at it. Erythema something, don't know what that is. Hemorrhagic eruption, vaginitis. I don't know half these words. Impaired renal function. I think that's kidneys or something to do with it. Don't know what this is. Acne, changes in libido. They throw that in there too. So basically the testimony that I got from my Facebook friend, it goes along with all of these symptoms. Look at all of these adverse reactions. Look at all of these from taking a hormonal birth control pill. All of these things listed. That's crazy. Colitis, Budd-Chiari syndrome. Don't know what that is. So all of these are listed in your insert. And this is the non-contraceptive health benefits. The following non-contraceptive health benefits related to the use of combination oral contraceptives are supported by this. So this is what the benefits are. So this is all, then we have the, just the instructions for how to take it. But I just really wanted to go over all the side effects. But the main thing is, okay, so let's not even pretend, let's not even look at all of these horrible adverse reactions to taking this. I just really, really, really want to highlight again the 3 mechanisms of birth control pills, and ask yourself as a Baptist, as a Christian, if I'm truly pro-life, how can I support this or put something like this into my body? How can I do that knowing the things that I know? Although the primary mechanism of this action is inhibition of ovulation, other alterations include changes in the cervical mucus, which increase the difficulty of sperm entry into the uterus, and the endometrium right there, which reduce the likelihood of implantation. If it reduces the likelihood of implantation, it means that there is a chance that there is a fertilized egg to implant, which means that this is not 100% against preventing ovulation. So as a Christian woman, I don't know how we can be on board with this. I don't know how we can be on board with the potential situation happening and where we could abort one of our, fertilized eggs, which if we are pro-life and we believe that life begins at conception, that is a soul. That is a human being. That is a person that God created. So this right here is why I want to shout it from the rooftops, because your doctors won't tell you about this. The doctors will tell you, oh yeah, this is just going to prevent you from ovulating. And this is one of the stronger birth controls, the orthotricycline. That's not even the birth control pill that is the mini pill. It's referred to as the mini pill. That one has even less hormones, and the breakthrough ovulation with the mini pill is huge. So one of the main mechanisms of the mini pill is that it does not allow a fertilized egg to implant. So where the stronger hormonal ones will have a higher chance of preventing ovulation, the mini pill does not. And so look that up as well. The mini pill only has one of the hormones, I believe. So the mini pill has a lower chance of preventing an ovulation, higher chance of expelling a fertilized egg. So what websites did I use? I just put in orthotricycline inserts, and that is a PDF that came up. It's the actual insert from the orthotricycline. You can look up whatever that your doctor has, whatever medicine your doctor has prescribed. You can type in that name and look up the inserts, and they're all available online. So you can look up, IUDs are terrible. I'm not even going over IUDs. The main mechanism of an IUD is expelling the fertilized egg. It's just the actual one, I think it's like a anchor. It looks like a little anchor that's inserted. Basically you ovulate almost all the time with that. The only thing that it does is it puts hormones into your uterine lining to abort that egg. That's the main composition. That's the main mechanism that one does. It's awful. IUDs are awful. The kind that they implant in your arm, the kind that they put in your uterus, they're horrible. There's all these other things that can happen too. They can migrate to different parts of your body. They can end up getting stuck. You have to get it surgically removed. It's terrible. I'm not even going into IUDs because most Baptist women know IUDs are not a good thing to go to. So, but yes, that's my spiel on hormonal birth control. I wanted you all to see that for yourself, the inserts and the mechanisms that go into it. So then you have to decide if you want to go that route when it comes to that. Not only do you have, if you're pro-life and you believe like me that life begins at conception, there's that aspect to it, but all those side effects that it listed, it's going to wreak havoc on your emotions. It's going to wreak havoc on your physical health. It can mess with your liver. It can mess with your kidneys. It, messes up your cycle. Some women being on it won't even have a cycle for months and months and months and months and months. That's not natural either. God designed our bodies in a way where every month, we go through that cycle. It's part of his plan to keep us healthy. So that is it. But I wanted to say, God created your cycles this way, and be wary of anything that can mess that up, whether that's hormones, whether that's synthetic hormones. Take care of your body and your hormones because your kids need you. And I'm also going to throw in here, postpartum. When you have a baby, realize that baby blues are coming. So get help if needed. Surround yourself with a community of women that can help you. Please get into a good Baptist church if you are not into a church. If you're away from family, if you're not surrounded by family that can help you, please get into a church. You need to be around other women that are going through the same thing as you. You need to be around the fellowship of them. You might need help from them sometime to help out with kids or meals or whatever. Realize that it's your hormones talking, but you are still responsible for the choices that you make. Just this week, there is a horrible, horrible story that came out about a mother that suffered a psychotic break and she strangled her 3 children to death. Mother accused of killing 3 children in Massachusetts. The district attorney said the incident in which a 5-year-old girl, a 3-year-old boy, and an 8-month-old boy were killed was an unimaginable, senseless tragedy. A mother is accused of strangling 3 of her children before she jumped out of a window in an attempted suicide at their suburban Boston home. An arrest warrant has already been issued Wednesday for Lindsay Clancy for 2 counts of homicide in connection with the deaths of her 5-year-old daughter and 3-year-old son. Her 8-month-old son, who she's also accused of strangling, was grievously wounded and has since died. It's not clear at this time if Clancy will face new charges over the infant's death. Clancy's husband called 911 at 6:11 p.m. First responders found 3 children in the home of Duxbury. The children were unconscious and with obvious signs of severe trauma. Preliminarily, it appears that the children were strangled, Cruz told reporters late Wednesday afternoon. Cruz said that as soon as possible, we will be arraigning her on 2 charges of murder in the deaths of her children. And the little boy has since died. All that to say that hormones can be a very scary time after having a baby. You can go into some pretty deep, dark places. Men don't understand this because they've never been through this. How could they? They don't understand the depths of a mother's emotion. And while the most innate desire in us as moms is to protect our children and to take care of those children, there are some moms out there that suffer psychotic breaks. And this psychotic break will be apparent if a mother starts seeing things, if a mother starts thinking horrible things about herself or thinking very dark thoughts about her children, how they would be better off without her, how they would be better off with another mother, how she doesn't want to pass on her deep, dark depression to her children, so they'd be better off dead. There are moms that have taken their children's lives because they are in such a deep, dark place. So all that to say, sometimes if you are in that place, it's okay to recognize that you need a break. It's okay to say, I need to take a step back. What is something that is not wrong morally, that is not wrong ethically, that I can do to give my mind a break, my sanity a break, my body a break? Maybe you've had 5 children in 5 years. Maybe you've had 3 children in 3 years. Maybe the lamb method doesn't work for you. You know, there's a lot of variables that can go into this. And I'm just here to say that there's no reason, especially if your husband, as the man of the house, as the head of the house, as your protector, is saying, honey, we need to take a step back and we need to take a break. There is nothing wrong ethically or morally with things like natural family planning, barrier methods, different things like that. So there have been moms that have suffered psychotic breaks and they have gone on to kill their children. And I don't ever want someone that's listening to this show, I don't want that to ever happen to them. I also know of another Baptist lady who was raised in an independent Baptist church, and she had 3 kids in 3 years. She was pregnant with her 3rd one. She took her 2-year-old, I believe, in her arms and stepped in front of a semi. I've told the story before, and the semi killed her and the baby she was pregnant with instantly. And the 2-year-old miraculously survived. So her 2-year-old and 3-year-old did survive, but she left in a note. She said that she was so depressed and in such a dark place that she thought it was genetic and she didn't want to pass it on to her children, which is why she took the 2-year-old with her and she stepped in front of that semi. So I don't want any woman to ever get to the point or feel like, because of societal pressure or the pressure from maybe a church you're in, or the pressure from teachers like Gothard or the Quiverful crowd, the Quiverful movement. I don't want you to ever feel pressure from groups like that where you think that it's wrong morally to just take a step back and take a break, you know, from all the pressures and demands, because it's a lot. And once you have that baby, you are forever invested in that child. You are watching out for that child's soul. You are raising that child in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. It's a lot of work. So consider the cost, you know, before it goes into that. But reach out to family if you need help postpartum. Get in a church, but realize that your mom friends also have families they are raising too. So definitely, you know, don't be demanding. Don't be, you know, I have to have this done or whatever, but definitely ask for help if it needs to be there, and go to a actual professional counselor if you need mental help, please. You know, most pastors or pastors' wives are not trained professionally to help in this area. So I would definitely recommend finding a Christian counselor to reach out to if you need help that badly. If you feel like you're on the edge of a psychotic break, please get help. Your husband is a great support when you need to just cuddle with a strong man, but he's not going to understand the emotional side of it all. And how can he? So don't expect him to. Men are logical and don't have hormones driving them like we do. So cut him some slack. Don't put so many expectations on him for to completely understand everything that you're going through emotionally. I feel in my heart, this is why we need other women. This is why we need each other. This is why we need a community. This is why we need our girlfriends, because they have been through it. They've been through the valley and they've come out on the other side stronger for it. They've been in the deep, dark throes of depression and they've lived to talk about the victory that they got over that. They've been through postpartum. They've been through hormones. They've been through childbirth. They've been through all of it. And so they can offer you the support and the compassion that you need. Whereas your husband is not, because he's not a bad guy. He just does not know what it's like. You can't know what it's like until you've been through it. So that being said, the man can take responsibility if he sees red flags and knows that you're struggling. He is your protector. And shame on the men that know that their wife is in a bad place, know that the wife is struggling, and yet they still push for her to get pregnant 3 months after having a baby. They still push for her to get pregnant 6 months after having a baby. They still push for her to get pregnant a year after having a baby, and she's in a horrible, dark place. Shame on him. Men are there to be the protector. Men are there to be the overseer. Men are there to take care of you and, notice when you're struggling mentally and physically and all those things. So realize that God created us this way. And while we have many hormones that we have to deal with, it's not impossible to deal with them and gain victory over your actions when your hormones are, very, very high. So recognize what you're up against, whether that's hormones during the different three or 4 weeks of your cycle, or that's hormones that are going to come after the baby comes. Realize that it's going to hit you. Prepare for it, mentally prepare for it. Get ready to adjust your mindset if you need to. Take active steps to gain victory. And those active steps can be what we talked about earlier. Realize that it's coming, realize what week you're in, realize postpartum, I'm going to go through this. I need to surround myself with, some voice to help me. I need to surround myself. I need to have this friend over. I need to be able to text with this friend. I need to be able to, tell my husband, I really just need you to hold me right now. I did that a lot after Hannah. I just said, just please hold me. I didn't want to talk. I just needed him to hold me. And he did. Don't use the excuse, this is how I am, I can't help it, etc. We all have a choice for how our life plays out. We all have a choice for how we're going to respond to different things in our life. So we have a choice. And that's why, even though that woman suffered that psychotic break and the one that jumped in front of the semi truck suffered a psychotic break, they chose to do that. There are just certain lines that you have to establish, and you say, I will never cross this line no matter what I'm feeling. If you're having a horrible day where you're thinking horrible, deep, dark thoughts, call someone. Ask someone if you can drop the kids off while you go and you get yourself together, while you get help, while you reach out to a trusted friend or you get help from a counselor. You have to keep these things in mind, and you have to have lines that you absolutely will not cross as a mom when you're going through, and realize I might go through a very dark place after having a baby. So I'm going to put these boundaries into my life so that I never cross them, so that, what's this lady's name? I already forgot her name. So that a Lindsay Clancy situation will never happen. It will never happen, because she's going to have that. Even after she gets over this postpartum depression and the hormones from having a baby, she will forever live. She'll never be the same person. She will probably locked up forever, but she will be forever live with the guilt, and she will be imprisoned by just the memories of her children and what she did. So we all have a choice. We all have lines that we should have in our life and boundaries that we will not cross. We don't have to be a slave to our emotions and our hormones. You can choose to gain victory over these things. You can choose to heal. You can choose to move past the trauma. You can choose to, be bigger than your hormones. We don't have to let them control us. And you can remove yourself from situations if you know you're going to slip up. If you're having a really difficult time, you're in one of your phases where you're just antisocial and you have a tendency to just rip someone's head off during that time, you don't have to stay the whole day at church. You can go home and take a nap. There's different things, that you can do as a woman to just realize that this is going to happen and I need to be prepared for it. And then show others grace when they might be going through a hormonal time. I have often thought that I've gone through the hard things. I went through the valley after Hannah so that I would realize how bad it can be. And I never had thoughts of, I want to harm my child. And if you are ever having thoughts of harming your children, please get help. I'm begging you, please get help. But I had thoughts, Hannah, I'm not a good mom. I had thoughts, Hannah deserves a better mom than me because I couldn't get the nursing thing down. So I was thinking other moms would get this down. Other moms would be a better, have more patience. Other moms would just have had the nursing thing down the first week. And here it's taken me 6 weeks, so I did have deep, dark thoughts of that. And I've often thought that God allowed me to go through that so that I could see how dark of a place that we can get into when those hormones are just raging. And I haven't forgotten, she's only 2. So definitely show others grace when they might be going through a hormonal time. I never even had postpartum until after Allie. So for my first 5, I had none. I had 0. I didn't even know what it was like. I'm like, postpartum, baby blues, nothing. They're nothing until I went through it myself. And now I have a lot more grace for women who are struggling with it. And yes, there are different apps that you can get. I also use the Pre-Mom app. That is what I use. I use the Pre-Mom app and the ovulation strips. It's 100% accurate. So far, it's pretty crazy how accurate it is. And then there's different apps. Julia says, I highly suggest the Read Your Body app. But like I said, we can even fluctuate with that. So definitely, I would not even depend on that if you are trying to get pregnant or you're trying to take a break. I would not totally depend on those as well. So, Kaylin, we would love to have you visit our church. You'll find that when you visit our church, it's full of very friendly people. And I was telling my husband today, most people who visit our church, they are just instantly accepted and feel like they're family. And we have a lot of people that move away for job related things and they end up moving back because we joke often that, people just can't leave our church because they move away, they move back because there's something special here, I believe. So, and then Sybil said, I didn't have my second daughter until 3 years after having my IUD removed, which means that it caused infertility for 3 years. I also have a literal yawning problem due to Lexapro. Vaginal whatever is fancy for yeast infections. Okay, yes. So that's what I was saying. It can affect the gut flora. It can affect your gut flora and cause a whole host of other problems to go along with that. So, and then most apps do work off of a general 28-day cycle. But the nice thing with the Pre-Mom is that as soon as you record the positive ovulation test, it'll tell you exactly what day. Based off of that, it thinks that you're going to start your cycle. And it's been like pretty much 100% accurate for me. Those ovulation tests are very highly accurate. There's also something that you can get a little scope, which tests your saliva every day. And when you see a fern thing in your scope, that indicates that you are about to have the upcrease in I think it's LH hormone, I think is what it is, where it's the spike. And then that's been pretty accurate for me. I used that when I was younger. Not so much anymore because they didn't have like the ovulation strips really when I was younger, or all the apps and the phones and all that. Now they have all this technology that works really well. So Megan said, I highly recommend charting for all women to better understand one's own cycle, as we are all unique and many factors can alter any given cycle. It's also nice to know which day to expect your period. It is. And then Julia said, if you have longer or shorter cycles, you will need a way to track ovulation. You can even ovulate different days each month. Yes. And that's what I ran into because of the shorter cycle. They're really cheap off of Amazon. One box that's about $30 lasts me 8 or 9 months, a long time, because you really only need to take them around that that fertile window. So I usually start around day 10, and usually by day 12, because like I said, I have a short cycle, by day 12, I've gotten a positive. So, and then once you get that positive, you can test, because it's kind of fun to see like the positive going down, knowing that, okay, this was for sure the day that I tested positive. But usually you could get away with only using about 3 or 4 tests a month, and they come with a lot of tests. So yes, LH hormone is what it tests for as well. So yes, so those are some options. I hope that I got this across in love and grace, because here's the thing. This is a subject not often talked about. And it's not your fault if you didn't know all this. You know, I think the generation before me and my generation is dropping the ball when it comes to common sense approaches to your cycle, your fertility, and they are not warning of the dangers of hormonal birth control. I believe that any hormonal birth control that can cause the abortion of a fertilized egg, which as a Baptist woman and a Christian woman, I believe a fertilized egg is a human being. I believe it is a soul that God created. I believe that if left to implant, would grow into a healthy, happy baby, and it would have a future life here on earth if allowed. But I believe any hormonal birth control that can cause that in any way to stop or alter it or cause your body to expel it is a sin. It is abortion in nature. And if you didn't know, it's not your fault, but now you do. So take this knowledge, research it for yourself, and you tell other women, you instruct your daughters, you train your daughters about what works with the body and what's going through your body and what the adverse reactions of hormonal birth control can do. We need to be better when it comes to the next generation. We need to equip our daughters with the knowledge of the beautiful way that God created us. We need to equip our daughters with the knowledge of the detrimental effects that birth control pills and hormonal birth control pills, the IUD, anything hormonal. We need to equip them with the knowledge of the devastating effects that it can have on their health, on their fertility, on their relationships with other people as it affects their moods and their hormones. We need to equip all of our daughters better in this area. So we've dropped the ball. Let's pick it back up and let's warn others and instruct others and teach others, because it's our job, you know, as Titus women, it's our job to pass this stuff on. And I think God will be pleased for us if we do it. So yes. And then Joyce, there was a brand I found, Julia O'Donnell, Julia Matthew, you might know what the brand was of the scope that we found. We had to find it in some weird pharmacy. We ordered it from there. I don't know if my eyesight is getting worse, but it doesn't work well for me because it's really hard for me to see. Taking your temp is very handy for some women. I never have. I remember when my mom was trying to get pregnant with my younger sister, she kept a thermometer by her bed because you're supposed to take it before you get up and start moving around every day. And she charted her cycles, and she also took her temperature to find out when she was ovulating. And it worked for her. She was able to pinpoint, and she actually got pregnant with my baby sister. So taking your temperature does work for a lot of women. I have always been so up and down during the night with my horrible sleepers of toddlers that I have. I don't really know if it will work for me as well, because you have to get a consistent amount of sleep during the night and then take it before you wake up for that to really work. And so I've just never messed with it because the ovulation tests are so great. They're so 100% accurate. So Julia, yes, there's a lot of women in this chat that have a lot of knowledge when it comes to this. They've also done their due diligence and they've researched it. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the Gently Led Sisters group on Facebook. If you have any questions, put them down below in the chat and I will try to answer them, or another woman knowledgeable. I know Megan was jumping in, Julia O'Donnell, Julia Matthew. We're all type of women that like to research this stuff. So there's a lot of knowledge here in this group. So if you have any questions, please leave them down. If you also have a more personal question, I will be free to answer it. You can email me at gentlyledsisters@gmail.com and I'll do my best to answer it as well. Also, I wanted to throw out there, one of the listeners from last week named Tyler won the giveaway for the Bible, and Tyler has not emailed me with her address. So if she does not email me by next week, I'm going to put the Bible back up again for another giveaway and see if I can get an email response with the address to send to Tyler. So please, Tyler, if you're listening, please email me with your address so I can get that sent out. So, okay, so Julia put down the information too that about those questions that were asked. So stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. We have a couple great discussions coming up, and I will put more information out about that the closer that we get. So thanks, ladies, for joining me. I hope it came across in a gracious way. I don't want to be mean or guilt trip anyone that didn't know this. So, just show grace for yourself, show grace for other people that maybe have not been taught this, and let's get this out there. Let's get this information out there. So I appreciate all